Okay, well, I'll get us started here. So thank you everyone for popping in and joining us today. I am so happy to be doing this and to have this opportunity to have this conversation with Al Jones. For those who know Al, he has been just a trailblazer in this industry. I know he's very modest about it, but you know he's done a lot, and he's inspired a lot of people, and those of us that have worked with him as well. Just a little bit of history for those that don't know Al. Al has a practice in Barrie, so that's A. Jones Wealth and Estate Planning. But you know, he's been with Advocis, involved in so many different ways for a very long time. Um, Through the years, he's built his practice and built his reputation through community. He was, you know, a chair of the Innisfil Chamber of Commerce, first Black chair.
Yep.
Went on to become the chair of the People's Credit Union for, I think that was even for 3 terms, for 3 years.
Yep.
Within Advocis, you came on as a member of one of our boards in Simcoe Muskoka, served as chair of that chapter for a couple of terms. Continuing up, you know, you served on what we call the Chapter Leadership Council today, becoming the chair of the National Volunteer Committee. Through the years, continued on, got involved with our various committees from Program Committee, Governance Committee, and then finally becoming chair of the Institute for Advanced Financial Education, and then ultimately becoming chair of Advocis nationally for our board of directors. So you just blazed a trail through everything you could possibly do, and gotten involved in every way possible. And we thank you for that, because you've made such a difference in everything we've done. And as I look at that, I remember sitting in the audience and listening to your farewell speech in Saskatoon when you were leaving the board. And your focus in that speech was all about community.
Yeah.
I have held on to that. I remember that. It was so impactful. And I don't know if people understand what has driven you through your career. So I wanted to talk with you about that today.
Okay. Excellent. Heather, I'm looking forward to it. And you know, when you reflect back and take a look at some of the things that we've done within our association and that I've done in the association, it's not until you stop and pause and realize, you know, the work that all of us have done to bring the association to where it is today. So I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Me too. And I know we've talked about this a lot through the years. I'm really curious, because I don't know if a lot of people know that before you became a financial advisor, you were a social worker.
Correct, yes. Prior to getting into the industry, I spent 10 years working in the field working with hard-to-serve youth and their families out of the Toronto area. We were working up at a treatment center up in the Beaver Valley up near Collingwood. And that role was exceptional. It was working with communities, working with kids. Ultimately, the provincial school board hired me as a consultant to work with hard-to-serve kids that were being expelled from the school system in the Toronto area, and working with them and their families and the teacher and the social and the psychiatrist to reintegrate them back into their communities, reintegrate them either back into the school system if it was appropriate, and sometimes it wasn't appropriate for them to go back to school, but to work with them to identify different ways that they can contribute, whether it's a work program, a co-op program, something to work with the kids. For me, the key takeaway in that work was the kids that I was working with, the teens that I was working with, had to make a commitment to themselves. And if they made a commitment to themselves, then we can make a commitment to them, and we had a lot of success that way. And that route actually carries on in our practice, because we work with clients, and we want to work with clients who are committed to their plans and committed to their goals. Then we can assist them in getting there as well. I didn't think about that thread before, but that thread holds true today.
Well, it's true. I mean, often the things we've done, we don't necessarily connect the dots, but there are dots there. And it's interesting to look back through your career, because you can see that there are a lot of connections and threads through them. I was curious, what moved you then from working as a social worker into financial services?
Ultimately, what was happening is we lived in Barrie. And I was hired as a consultant, if you will, to the Metro School Board in Toronto. So for those that don't know, that's from a commute would be about an hour and a half into downtown Toronto. It was a pilot program, and really people weren't thinking that it was going to be successful. It was really to temper kids being expelled in lawsuits and that type of stuff. But the program became very successful. So much so that the school board said, you know, Al, what we really want to do, instead of you being a consultant out of Barrie, we're going to hire you and you're going to work out of Toronto. So you must be in Toronto every morning at 8 o'clock to start your day, and then go out to the other communities. And at that point, talking with my spouse, is like, I don't know if I want to do the commute into Toronto every day. And it was at that point that actually London Life sent me a letter saying, hey, look, we've heard about who you are. We want to interview you to work in our community here in Barrie and Bradford. Our approach is different, though. We're not looking for salespeople. We're looking for people who can create relationships. We're looking for people who understand that we want people to help other individuals. We can teach you to sell, but we can't teach you to be empathetic and really creating relationships. So the timing was ideal. Financially, it was ideal. My wife was working as a school teacher. It's like, you know, why not take the leap? So I took the leap with London Life. They took a leap with me and invested in me. They certainly didn't see the results in the first few years because I still had that social work mentality, which is I'm out here to help everybody that I can. And for the managers I were working with, they were just looking at sales, sales, sales. So there was a conflict there. Finally, we got together and said, look, this job is more than about selling. This job is about helping people as well. So if I can go out and do a beneficiary change, that's helping a client, and down the road, other things will come of that. And we began to change that philosophy, if you will, within our region here in Barrie, and it became more about the more people we help, ultimately the goal would be very positive down the road. Mm. That was the transition. So it was London Life taking that chance, and then for me bringing over the skill set of you know, we're in our community, let's be integrated in our community, and let's focus on helping people in our community. Yeah. Mm.
You know, and that does it. We see the connections again to your connection to the community driving all of it. Something that you and I had talked about, and I remember this again from a few years back, was I was very surprised to hear about your family's connection to civil rights movement here in Canada. That they've been so involved, and especially coming out of Nova Scotia. I lived in Nova Scotia for a while, and I had no knowledge of this history at all. I'm curious what that was like to grow up within a family who was had such a focus on advocacy, and how that might have influenced and shaped your own belief in this higher calling to community.
You know, so my family roots are from Nova Scotia. I'm the 6th generation Canadian. We came in the 1700s. And so in Nova Scotia, there was a lot of challenges for blacks in Nova Scotia. My father came to Ontario, he met my mother here in Ontario. So my father was the eldest of the family of 10. So he was the you know, the oldest brother of this family of 10. And for my dad, it was, yeah, I'm getting out of Nova Scotia. I'm going to make my own way. The younger brothers and sisters of his, my aunts and uncles, they became a little more, we got to correct some things that are incorrect. So as much as my dad laid a little bit low here in Ontario, certainly the influences of my uncles and my aunts back in Nova Scotia and the work that they were doing in Nova Scotia and Canada filtered through Ontario, because often there would be some work that was happening down in the States. And so we had some characters at our home. I'm beginning to remember these images of these individuals coming up from the States who I never heard the term Black Panther before. But so here was my uncle who was, you know, involved with the Black Panther movement, if you will, and how that affected us was, you know, my mom and my dad, we lived in an all Italian and Munja Cake neighborhood, so white and Italian. We were the only black family in that community. What was unique about that was, you know, the kids, we didn't care. All the kids, we just played, we did our own thing, it didn't matter. But what was beginning to happen is we sort of started going up through playing hockey and doing all the different things in the community. We began to recognize, well, we are uniquely different. When my mom or my dad says, if you're going to go out and hang out with people, be aware that if you're in a group of people of 7 individuals and you're the only black person that's in that group, people will remember you. They're not going to remember. So when you're out there in the public, you best be on your best behavior and present yourself in the best possible way that you can. When you walk into a room, people are going to notice you. Make sure your head is up, your shoulders are back, and you present yourself very well. And that carried on throughout high school and into the early years. And it was the conversations with my uncle and my aunt that really began to recognize that, you know, things are a little bit different for a person who's a Black Canadian. I recall still in high school, as much as I'm Black Canadian, I'm not Black Jamaican, I'm not Black from somewhere else. So you're sort of down the middle of the road, and the different groups do look at you through different lenses. What I was very proud to say is I'm Canadian, and the fabric of Canada is multidimensional and multicultural. So I can accept any group, and any group is going to have to accept me because I'm Canadian. I don't want to go any further down that route, but it was challenging. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of challenges.
Mm-hmm. I could see that as something you would also look at within your own career. When you started in the profession, you know, were there mentors available to help you get started?
Yeah, you know, so starting here in Barrie, I was the only Black advisor in our community here in Barrie. And because, you know, sort of growing up, identifying with being the only, you knew how to present oneself. So some of the challenges here in Barrie were very unique. My name is unique, and I've shared this with other people. You know, Al Jones, if you don't have video and you see the name Al Jones, well, that's just a typical name. It's not until Al Jones walks into the door frame of your home and there's a 6-foot+ Black guy that you know, it's a disconnect that they have to reconnect together. Mm-hmm. The nice thing for most people that I started working with is the way I was able to downplay my size, the way I was able to downplay and just connect with them about, you know, in many ways we're the same. We enjoy hockey. We enjoy all those things that are typically Canadian. And it's like, then people were a little more welcoming, a little more accepting, if you will. In terms of my approach anyways. So mentors, no. But the mentors I did find were people that saw strength in me and saw opportunities that I would be able to bring to community. One of our own, Chris Burchard, is one who for many years, you know, he pisses me off sometimes when he says, Al, look, you need to take an extra step to take back and learn a bit more before you move forward. But he was always there for me to identify, here's a path that you can go along, and here's how I can support you along that path. And I find that very unique within our industry. We can go to a chapter event. I could be a London Life person. I can go to a chapter event. Sun Life will be there. Emmanuel Life will be there. And everybody who's at a chapter event is there to help one another be successful in our industry. And color doesn't matter. Color does not matter. We're all in this industry to help people. And I found that within our chapter system, there are a lot of mentors within the system that may not look like me, but were able to give me the support I needed to move forward. Absolutely.
So, I mean, you brought up the chapters, you know, the chapters, which is, you know, this is what I focus on every single day, is working with our volunteers and our chapter communities. New outreach, new connections, bringing in people who we haven't interacted with before in the community. What are your thoughts on how we can start to open those doors up and get more people in that we haven't worked with before?
Yeah, you know, I think one of the most unique things that we have as an association is our chapter system, our chapter network. We're in all the communities across the country, and what I found when I was chair and sitting on the chapter board or even the TFAC board is the opportunities that we have to get into the variety of communities. And there are a couple of things that to me are similar through all communities. So in a given community, I'm going to talk herds for a second. So you go into a particular community and there will be a large group of people that look the same, walk the same, so they're in a particular herd, particular group. And then there'll be some other groups outside, whether it's Black, whether it's Asian, whether it's gay, whether it's Indigenous, that aren't quite the same as the herd. We have an opportunity within our chapter network to look outside our own herd and say, you know, there's some great people in that particular group over there that we need to bring into our group. We need to bring into our circle. And the more we become inclusive, it just takes one or two. one or two individuals that we can bring into that group, then what begins to happen is that other herd says, hey, look over there. You know, Jones is over there, and he kind of looks like me. The rest may not, but I can identify with Jones, or I can identify with Herman Chan. There's different people I can identify with, and then we begin to become more inclusive. The chapter network is in a very unique position across the country where we can be very inclusive. And it's very difficult because oftentimes we just want to look at our own herd, what we're comfortable with. We want to be with like people. There's a good identifying other people who may not look exactly like us, but have the same skill set and the same compassion and passion that we do to bring them in. Mm. Vancouver does an exceptional job at bringing in a variety of different groups within the herd, if you will, in the Vancouver chapter.
Well, let's broaden this out even in across the industry then. So if we start thinking more broadly, really, what do you think the industry needs?
Profile that we're looking for, these are the individuals that we're looking for, and reach out and begin to draw them in. I think in some ways I had the advantage, but name Al Jones on a piece of paper, that doesn't mean anything to somebody, but they get surprised when it comes in. So sometimes if people are looking at paper and the names they don't quite identify with, they may put that aside. And I think we need to go outside that. I think we need to, as an industry, really go into other communities and begin the dialogue and the conversation and pull them in.
So as you look back through your own career then, are there any things that stand out for you, those moments where you can point to and say, wow, this was really important to helping me move to that next step in my career, or help to identify an opportunity for me?
I think for me, again, I'm very fortunate, very, very supportive family in terms of community, and being involved is really important, really connecting with community and connecting on helping. And I think that's where both came together. The social work background, our family does a lot. We have got a lot of ministers and social workers within the Jones family, and that's all about, reaching down, helping people to do the best that they can do. And so a few aha moments would be, getting my CLU, that I was able to do it. My CFP, it may have taken me 3-4 times to get the CFP, but that was a level of measurement that I was able to be successful at. And then to have clients say, Al, come on in. We got this paperwork to do, but really, I want to sit down and have a glass of wine with you. I want to break bread with you. You are part of the family. And those are moments where it's like, yeah, we're doing what we're meant to do as advisors, which is helping families and helping people be successful. And that's just not about the dollars and cents. That's about the relationships. And when I look back on the career, and many of you would have the same, I started 25 years ago. I still have clients that I've had 25 years ago, and it's just it's awesome to think that, yeah, there's still clients, and I've seen their kids grow up throughout. And some of those clients, from an educational point of view, have said, Al, come on into the home. I want you to meet and talk to our kids. So the home typically is it's a white home. But it brings another dynamic of education to that family and to those kids, right? About how inclusive we need to be and how inclusive we can continue to be. I saw a quote the other day. There's two quotes I really love. And the first one is our own model, non solus novus, not for ourselves alone. We're in this industry not for ourselves alone. We're in this industry to help Canadians as much as we can across the world. But I came across one the other day from a woman in the States, and the comment was this. It said, if they don't give you a seat at the table, so if they don't give you a seat at the table, then bring a folding chair. Bring a folding chair. If there's no seat you bring your chair. You be there. Because everybody deserves to be at the table and working at it.
Oh, I love that. That's great.
Yeah, I was just blown away. American politician, she was the first black woman that was elected into the House of Congress in 1969. If they don't give you a seat at the table, Bring a folding chair.
Folding chair. I love that. So just doing a check here. You know, I know we have people who have some questions for us. So are you okay if we maybe open it to some questions from on the line?
You know, as you do that, I think one of the unique things that we have within our association is that we have a number of great advisors that are, you know, use the word earlier in the conversation, trailblazers. Well, I look at other people like Chris Burchard and a variety of others, even Harley Larkart, as we have trailblazers. We have people that really are paving a way for us in Canada to do extremely well as financial advisors. And I hope we take the opportunity to acknowledge all those other men and women that have done great work within our industry, within our communities, to make this a better place.
I agree. You know, within the network, we have 400 volunteers across the country. And I always say we have 400 different stories right now, of great stories to be able to share, of great contributions and ways that people are making a difference. So it's great to be able to do this spotlight with you first, but definitely want to do this more often for sure. So I have a question here. What's the most important communication skill you learned as a social worker that you still use as an advisor?
That is a solid, great question. So what I'm going to say that one of the best skills that I brought was the ability to really actively listen and to draw out from individuals that I'm sitting with, and not just take the first answer, but really take, and so some of my clients will even say, you know, Al, sometimes I hate sitting down with you because you make me cry. And, you know, lots of tissues is there because we dig deep into what really matters for them. So one of the skills is really active listening. Now, I can tell you one of the things I don't miss is, you know, when I was in social work and doing that work, you know, I was a trainer for nonviolent intervention. So I don't miss having restraints or having knives or all that stuff pulled at me or being sworn at. Still happens from time to time, the swearing, but it really is the active listening, being engaged, being present.
Being present. That's good.
Great question.
Great question. We have another one. Al, you emphasize the importance of being visible in the community. What message do you have for not only all advisors, but particularly Black advisors and volunteers in the community?
I think for any advisor, regardless of what our background is, when I think about being visible, you know, I was actively involved in the Chamber of Commerce, and part of that is when they started in London, it's like you need to be present, you need to be where the people are. You can't do, I felt at that time, and I still feel, you can't do the job from in your office. You need to be connected to the community. So regardless of what it is find different community groups to be engaged in, whether it's a Chamber of Commerce, whether it's a photo club, to be out there, be present, be engaging, don't sell. Be present, be engaging, and let people get to know you for who you are, and be genuine. And the more we can be genuine in the different things that we do in the community, more people will connect with you. And once they connect with you and get the sense that you're genuine, they'll want to do business with you. And it opens up other opportunities. And if not them directly, the referrals are coming. It's like, I met this guy through the photo club or through what, you know, the Chamber of Commerce. You really need to talk to Al. He's got a good handle on this. And so it doesn't matter what our background is. Be connected in your community. Step out. I had fun, you know, in the old days. I started my day each day in a Tim Hortons. Well, we got to know all the staff, and in Bradford, it was like all the old guys would come in and be present in the Tim Hortons. So it was important for me to be there. And soon enough, it's Al, how's it going? You know, that type of stuff was all part of being connected in the community.
Yeah. Great question, Lucas. See, I'm just doing a check. Are there any?
And for those guys, you know, let's go back. I'm going to come back to that. See that Lucas's question there about being present. I think sometimes that we also need to step out of our own herd, our own group. So if you're connected really within the Black community, and that's great, or the Asian community, sometimes you as advisors then need to step and go into someone else's group. You know, so if I'm a Black individual, then I'm going to find out, you know, like in Vancouver, you know, I had the opportunity to connect with an Asian lunch and be there and be present. And then it just opened up more doors because I was accepting of them and they were accepting of me. We need to do more of that, cross-pollination, if you will. I don't know where the hell that came from.
Oh, all right. Do we have any last questions coming in? One last look. Okay. So Al, I have one
So
last question for you.
I have a question for you, Heather.
Yes.
So what have been your challenges?
In which way?
I leave it open-ended for you.
One of the biggest challenges we had last year was this switch to a virtual, community, and how do you stay connected virtually? And I know that this has been something that our chapters have been really focused on, is finding ways to not just stay connected with their members, but finding ways to get out there still and connect in with other communities, with other people. So that continues to be one of our challenges. And one of the things we're looking at is how do we do this virtually, open these doors, create these conversations. And things like today are a good way to do that, is to just get out there and start having conversations with people. So I would say that the switch over the past year to virtual has been our biggest challenge, but had a lot of opportunity with it as well. We've never seen
Yeah.
greater engagement and collaboration between people, and that there's something really great about that opportunity for us.
So, and again, you're in a very unique position because you're from Nova Scotia. You're a Black woman from Nova Scotia, and making your way in our industry and seeing things within our industry. What would you have to say for Black females that are wanting to be connected and advance?
I think I would say the exact same thing you did, which is finding new herds to grow with and to make connections through. I can say, because previous to this role, I've also worked as an entrepreneur. I had my own business, and it's very similar in that you need to get out of your comfort zone and you need to step out and just interact with other groups. I know that that's how I built my clientele. It's how I built relationships with other businesses, for B2B relationships. It's the same thing. You have to look around and find those other opportunities and step into them, and be willing to, be present and ask questions, be visible. It's that's really critical these days.
The one you said a lot. And one of the lines I really liked is you have to step into the light,
Mm-hmm.
and be comfortable stepping into the light. Be comfortable with who you are, step into the light, and let yourself shine, and people will be drawn towards you.
Agree, completely. So my last question for you, Al. I'm curious, what's next for you? So it's been a couple of years since you were chairing our national board. I know you're still very actively engaged with so many different things, but what's next for you? What's next on your horizon? What's important to you?
Well, I keep using the word community. I've been fortunate to be appointed as the honorary lieutenant colonel for our regiment here in Barrie, the Grey and Simcoe Force. So it's militaries. The Canadian Armed Forces has appointed me as the honorary lieutenant colonel, and the application is going through that they want me to step up to be colonel. So that's to be the liaison and represent our regiment here in Barrie with the community. What was very unique about the Grey and Simcoe Foresters is our first response as a unit is what they call Arctic response. So we're to be connected with our northern communities and assist with any emergencies or anything that happens in the north. I've had the opportunity last year to go north and begin to connect with some of the communities. So I'm liking the opportunity to not only represent the Canadian Armed Forces and our local regiment, but also to be connected in the northern communities. I chuckle because now in the northern communities, now I'm getting some really wide eyes as, they're typical used to who's coming up from the Canadian Forces. They're not used to seeing this 6-foot-something black guy in uniform up there and people saluting me as the honorary colonel. So I do see a role actively involved with Canadian Armed Forces, with our regiment, with our community, and doing some things there for the next few years, and continue to enjoy being an advisor. I really enjoy helping people and doing what we can here. Very much so. Great question.
Well, thank you, Al. I really appreciate you taking the time to do this today, and for helping us kick off these conversations, doing these member spotlights. I really appreciate your time and sharing your story and helping others to get to know you a little bit better as well. So I hope it was fun for you.
Very much so. The conversations are great. So I thank you very much for the opportunity to have this dialogue and conversation. So yeah.
Excellent. And thank you everyone for joining us today. We'll make a copy of this available for those that want to catch a replay. And we'd love your feedback as well. So,
Yeah.
drop us a comment.
Awesome. Feedback is good. It's good to know.
Yes. All right. Thank you. Take care, everyone.
Thank you very much for doing this, Heather. Appreciate it.
Thank you.